This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, come on up.
Hey everyone. Hey Susan, good to see
Hello.
you today. Thanks for the emails. Thanks for keeping me updated. Mike Spence, good to see you as well. Mike, for those folks that aren't aware, Mike and the folks in the Northwest have been doing a lot of tremendous work trying to support training efforts that are going on up there against, a couple of opposition groups. So just wanted to point that out. I mean, Mike has really been doing a tremendous job out there. So thank you for that. Want to say hi to Bill Hewitt. Good to see you as well, Bill. Bill, Stacy Kehoe had sent us an email about the spreadsheet for the members of Congress in Southern region. Aileen responded to her. Just let us know if you guys need anything else, if that response was everything that you needed.
Oh, we were able to open that one, so thank you.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. I think the last one was connected to our OneDrive, which is kind of like our cloud, and so you might not have been able to get into it without a password or something, so sorry about that.
It said it was corrupted file is what it said.
That sounds even worse. Well, okay, well, the one that we sent you is the good one. Okay, so that's good.
Look, I followed up with what you sent me.
I'm sorry, say again, Susan?
I followed up with what you sent me and I have completed it and submitted it.
Well, thank you so much. Listen, sorry about requiring kind of the really fast turnaround on that. So I really appreciate Susan, yourself, and a few other folks that were able to kind of jump on that right away. This is going to be a really, really big thing tomorrow when this hearing occurs, and we obviously want to make sure that our members of Congress know that we care about the Jones Act, we want to defend it, and we don't want to begin this slippery slope of undermining the Jones Act with these unnecessary waivers. And in fact, that's something we'll talk about a little bit later today. But Susan, I am really grateful that you're able to get on top of that so quickly because, we didn't give you much warning. So thank you for that.
Well, anytime you need anything, let me know.
Will do. Thank you, Susan. I see that we also have Bill Stevens with us. Bill, is Marilyn going to be joining us?
She'll be with us in just a minute.
Okay, excellent. Just wanted to double check.
Oh no, Team Maryland's here.
Team Maryland is okay. I see one half of Team Maryland. I don't see the other half yet. So just waiting on her to show up. I see we've got Sada Fuentes with us.
Hey.
Sada, thank you for joining us. There's Marilyn. Hello, how are you?
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Glad to see that you're doing well. And in fact, we'll be seeing you in about 2 weeks here, right? With Sea Air Space.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right around the corner. That came up real fast, didn't it? The last one was in August. I feel bad for some of the folks here that are really planning all of the panels. Legislative affairs, we have our congressional panel, which is nice, and we help out with some of the other panels. But you talk to like Julia Simpson, for example, who really has to do so much work for these panels. My God, this is a tough couple of weeks for her. So keep her in your prayers. Chris Schutzenberger is with us.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Glad to see you here with us, Chris. And Marilyn, as always, yes, of course. We know that some of our dedicated legislative affairs advocates are always willing to pitch in. I was just mentioning Susan earlier, who was able to kind of respond to this campaign that we sent out like really quickly, and thank God for that because we didn't have much time. Jerry St. Germain is with us. Good to see you, Jerry. How are things down there in Florida?
Things are very nice. We have a beautiful Florida day.
I'm glad to hear that. We have nice weather here in Virginia as well. It just suddenly got so beautiful. Only a week ago, we had this sudden snowstorm. It came out of nowhere. Well, what's the temperature like there, Jerry? Are you guys in the 80s or where at?
It's in the high 70s. In fact, I'm sitting out on the lanai enjoying
I can
it.
tell. I can see you sitting outside enjoying the weather. Okay, well, go ahead and make the rest of us jealous. That's okay, Jerry.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm joking. Thanks for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. And let me just see, we've got a few other folks joining us, of course. Scott Sund, it's great to see you, Scott. I hope that you got the last email that I sent. Thanks for kind of letting me know everything that's going on. And it's great to have you here with us. Don Giles is with us as well. Don, I'm sorry about the couple of links on Quorum that just were not working out correctly. Thanks for letting us know about that.
Oh, that's no problem. I just wanted to advise you since you may not have noted it.
Unfortunately, yeah, I don't get a chance to check in on that website that often. So when some of the links kind of get old or they connect to some old information that's not relevant anymore, I'm really glad that, you let me know, because otherwise they would just stay there. I wouldn't get a chance to see them.
Yeah, no problem, Luke.
Okay, appreciate that. Rich Berkowitz is here with us. Rich, thanks for your help as well. I received your emails earlier today. William Lauper's here with us. Good to see you, William. And let's see, we got a couple other folks. Jim Offit is joining us now. So Jim, I'll let you go ahead and hop in here.
Well, you're doing a good job. You can keep welcoming people if you think we have everybody. I'm still.
Okay, I think, I think we'll give folks just a couple more minutes. Doug Deneni joining us.
One of my electronic gadgets.
Okay.
Only have 3 to keep track of.
So in case anyone's not aware, Jim sets up a real command station when he joins us for the meetings. He has, I think, his iPad, his computer. He's got a whole, it's like the deck of a ship. So we'll give you a second to set that up. Doug, thanks for joining us. And Doug, I got your email as well. In fact, please don't let me forget to mention what you sent during this meeting. I want to make sure that we cover that. So just in case I go through the agenda and forget, just let me know.
Sure.
Thanks, Doug. Sam Colville joining us. Sam, it's good to see you with us. And David Samuels, good to see you too. David, I think we're connected on LinkedIn now. I think I just got your request, and I think we're now part of the same network. Okay. Willie Stranges is joining us, and Dave Livingston, good to have you here. Hey, Dave, welcome. Are you going to be joining us for Sea Air Space again, Dave?
Definitely.
Okay, fantastic. I know you are our go-to photographer, and we got some great photos last time, so we're excited to have you there. That's fantastic.
I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking that long plane ride. I know what that's like. I went out to visit you guys not too long ago. It takes a little time to get back and forth, so appreciate it. And the jet lag can hit you a little bit too. It's easy going the other way because you get jet lagged in Hawaii, you sleep on the beach for a couple more hours. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Coming to DC, it's a little more difficult.
Exactly.
Okay, and of course we've got Ed Crepage, my good friend from Liberty Region. Ed, I'll let you know about a few of the meetings that we're putting together, although actually Steve Tagriello is doing a fantastic job, so you might want to talk to him. He's setting up a lot of the meetings in Ohio, but I'll let you know, Ohio and Pennsylvania. I'll let you know if there's any that maybe we can work together on. Okay, so we've got a few more folks still joining us, but I think we're at the point now where we can go ahead and get started. So Jim, I'll hand it over to you. As everyone knows, there are a few big items that we want to touch on during today's meeting. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Well, again, just welcome to our monthly meeting. We're getting close, of course, to the virtual hill surge. And so, as we've talked about before, I hope that some of you have started trying to set up appointments after April 11th for those who are leading teams, and for those who are training teams, I hope you started that process also. It's important. So as you know, basically everything is going to be the same as we did last year, except we've got a year of experience, which we didn't have before. So hopefully that all of the process will go better. And so then all we need is what I would call in the teaching world some content. That's the one thing that we're missing right now. And as you can see from Luke's messages, there's a possibility that we might hear something Monday. So how does everybody feel? I guess this is the most important thing about moving the week from Monday's training to the following Wednesdays. Everybody okay with that? Can we have hands? Anybody got a problem? Or everybody, I don't know what to do. Negative. Anybody got a conflict?
Jim, I'm sorry. Let me mention what I meant was not Monday, but 2 days later, that Wednesday, because a week later will be Sea Air Space. Just
No,
want to make sure.
well, that's what I meant. And so,
Okay, sorry, yeah, next
you know,
Wednesday.
so today is what? I mean, it's a week from, this is Monday, and so 2 days is Wednesday. It's a week from the Wednesday, right?
Correct, so it'll be the 30th, March.
30th.
You know what time?
Still the same time. We would still do 4 o'clock.
4 p.m. and we'll record it, of course. So it'll be up on the website, the recorded video, you can watch the whole thing. And we also plan on doing another training session just for the RVPs to make sure everyone is tracking everything. And I'll mention one more time that throughout the course of the Hill Surge, if anyone needs additional training questions or whatever the case may be, of course, I'm always available. I know Jim will try to help out as well. But getting back to the point, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Next week is when we're trying to do that initial training.
Okay, so we'll Wednesday at 4 p.m. for the training, and that's March 30th, 3:30. Okay, Luke, I'll turn you over for what rumors we have on content.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Jim. And again, thanks to everyone that's joining us. I'll mention that, you know, we've been working with the Office of Legislative Affairs for the various sea services for quite some time, trying to put together these legislative asks. So even though we didn't have the president's budget just yet, we were able to start piecing together some of the things that are going to be most necessary for the sea services. And also the committees are starting to figure out on their own some of the things that they want to fund moving forward. However, we got excellent news very recently that the president's budget is expected to come out next Monday, March the 28th, which is the reason that we want to push back the training. We're going to need at least a day to really dig through it and identify some of the things that are going to come from that budget. Now, let me begin by mentioning that we do anticipate that this budget is going to be pretty strong on defense spending. Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith, has already said as much. As Jim Offit can tell you, and plenty of other folks that have experience in legislative affairs, Chairman Smith is very cautious, I'll say, about defense spending. It's not necessarily that he's opposed to it. He is, after all, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. But he really wants to know where the money's going. Is it being spent appropriately? Is it absolutely necessary? Which is one of the reasons why he was initially opposed to the $25 billion plus up, which eventually became, I think, $32 billion in this past budget. It wasn't necessarily that he didn't want to give money to the military, but he said, you know what, I don't know if it's crystal clear yet where that money's going to go or if we need it that badly. Anyway, when you have a holdout like him coming out clearly and saying, listen, we're going to put a lot more money into defense next year, then you can be pretty sure that you know, the number is going to go up. We've seen currently numbers in the range of 770 billion to 780 billion, with it being very likely that Congress will actually plus that up above 800 billion in terms of defense spending. Now, while that number sounds like a very, very big number, bear in mind that we're looking at what is it, 8% inflation at this point? That's serious. That takes an enormous bite out of those dollars and reduces the real value that they are actually providing. So even though we're going to have this larger defense budget, the question is, listen, programs like the Columbia class or shipbuilding or things of that nature, even if that number goes up by a little bit, is that going to cover the 8% that's necessary for real growth? And so that's going to be an issue. And so that brings us to our asks, which I'll go through right now. Again, without having seen the president's budget yet, these are still things that we were able to hone in on and identify based on hearings that have been happening on Capitol Hill and also based on what we've been hearing from the Office of Legislative Affairs for the Sea Services. So let's begin with the Navy. With everything that's happening in the world, it is imperative that America have a strong nuclear triad that is the only means for credible deterrence when it comes to great power competitors such as Russia and China. Obviously, we want to have strong services in a number of other ways, but that nuclear deterrence is absolutely critical. And of course, if not the most important leg of that nuclear triad, then certainly a very, very important aspect is that undersea submarine aspect of the nuclear triad. And so that means the Columbia class program. It is absolutely essential. It is mentioned time and time again by Navy leaders as the #1 priority, the top priority. And now more than ever, when we have, you know, a conflict in Europe, NATO on high alert, all these kinds of things. It is critical that we have this Columbia-class program moving forward as quickly as possible to make sure we replace the outdated Ohio subs that we're trying to replace with these newer Columbia-class nuclear attack submarines. So that is absolutely critical. Now, what we want to make sure when we speak to members on the Hill is that, look, not only are you matching the budgets that we've had in the past to just kind of keep this program on track, we're going to need more funding for that, again, because those dollars don't have the same real value anymore. We were looking at 8% inflation. So that number needs to increase. Now, again, we're finishing up talking with the OLA offices. We're going to look at the president's budget before we put in that final dollar amount in the slides, in the Hill Surge materials. So we don't have that for you at this moment. But know that the first ask we're going to have legislatively is that Columbia-class program and making sure it's funded to the point that we are seeing real growth. That means we have to overcome inflationary impediments. Second ask for the Navy. I'm sure all of you are tracking that the Red Hill fuel storage facility in Hawaii was shut down. There was an incident several months back in which some fuel got into the drinking water in the area. Now, you know, there was the question of how this would be remedied. Obviously, the Navy did an investigation. There were, you know, other efforts underway to make sure this never would happen again. But apparently the solution that was reached was that the Red Hill fuel storage facility will be shut down entirely. Now, this can be seen as part of a larger strategy, and in fact it is, trying to create a more dispersed fuel storage infrastructure throughout the Pacific, making sure it's less easy for China, for example, to target specifically where our big fuel reserves are, you know, having some afloat, having some in hardened shelters on shore, you know, really dispersing this, making it easier for our vessels to get access to them, making it easier for, you know, our fleets to be more agile and of course, more lethal in that regard. But, you know, we're not there yet. And so the closing of Red Hill is significant. You know, are we replacing that instantly? I don't think so. In fact, nobody has said that they think that's going to happen. So we need money in this next budget to make sure that we can begin putting together that infrastructure for these new fuel storage facilities. Again, some will be afloat in kind of these expeditionary types of locations. Some are going to be on shore. Those facilities are going to have to be hardened so that they can withstand missile attack, or whatever the case may be. This is something I'm talking with the Navy OLA office about right now. They're trying to get us their latest numbers. This is going to be difficult for them because, again, this I'm not 100% sure they were counting on this happening as quickly as it happened. So they're working on that. But the bottom line is this is going to be one of our asks. This is going to be something that at least we can educate members of Congress about, making sure that they know, listen, without this Red Hill fuel storage facility, we have to start dispersing our fuel sources, and we have to put money towards that right now. The next one we'll move to is the Marine Corps. Now, let me mention that in terms of the Marine Corps, we don't have that ask yet. The Marine Corps has come out with a number in terms of what they want regarding amphibious vessels. That number has encountered some debate and some controversy, so we don't have a final number there yet, but we are keeping track of that, and we will certainly let you know about that. One thing I will mention here, Doug, just so you know that I haven't forgotten, and I think this is very important, the Young Marines, which is a fantastic organization which instills patriotism, community service, dedication, commitment, and all these positive characteristics and attributes to our young people. They did not receive the funding they had hoped to receive last year. And so I think we're going to include that in our legislative asks. I believe, and Doug, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the number was somewhere around $4 million for that particular program to make sure that they're able to support their various chapters across the country, make sure that they're able to recruit and continue training young people. This is our future. You know, we consider this to be very, very important. And so I think this will be one of the asks that makes its way into our Hill Surge. It's not listed right here. Doug and I kind of discussed this via email just very recently, but that's one thing that I did want to mention. Moving, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look, we wholeheartedly support that. Our council has adopted 3 of the Young Marines units. They're fantastic. I have to tell you, it's amazing to see what they're doing with those youngsters, like 5th grade through 8th grade. And there are some even go through high school. But that's a great program, and I hope you do include it.
Well, absolutely, Jerry. And I'll tell you something, thank Doug for mentioning that. It is a tremendous program. I mean, this is not only the future of our military leaders. I would imagine a number of these folks do go on to serve time in the Marines, but it's also just creating a better American society. You know, it's just really creating a different caliber of American citizen. And that's one of the things that's so fantastic about that program. So of course we want to see that it continues being funded. And by the way, the $4 million in the federal budget is not an enormous ask. So for a program that is so important, I think we can certainly push Congress to make that happen.
How will that be labeled? Could you repeat?
I'm sorry, say once again.
I
How
can
will it
talk
be
on that real
called?
quick, Luke.
What will be
It was
the
about
nomenclature?
how's it labeled. So the Sea Cadets and the Young Marines both need additional money. Sea Cadets, if you look at our mission statement, we talk right on the front page of our website about a mission of the Navy League is to support these youth organizations. So it's a no-brainer for both organizations. I was just going to say that it gets very complicated with trying to explain how the money gets to the Young Marines. They get it out of a counter drug line, and they were unsuccessful last year, as mentioned, to get $4 million. I am, in full disclosure, I am the lobbyist for the Sea Cadets, and we were fortunate enough to get our additional $4.3 million. We have that same ask every year. The Young Marines were not. Unfortunately, they do not have a lobbyist, so they were unable to get the money. So there you go. It's convoluted. It's very difficult to explain how their money comes in through a counter drug prevention line. That's an interesting way to do business.
So I'll mention that in the notes that we have under the slides, we'll include the actual account information, the line item number, and how we actually identify, where that money comes from. Also, of course, identifying the relevant committee members, so you know when you're speaking with somebody that oversees that direct account, that you can kind of talk with them a little bit more directly. We'll include all of that. But as Doug pointed out, the biggest thing is just making them aware that when the budget, when their next budget starts coming together, we will certainly be looking for that particular number, and we'll be kind of keeping them up to date. If we don't see it, then we're obviously going to be coming back to them. Mike, did you have a question?
I was just wondering who the Young Marines sponsoring organization is, such as our relationship, the Navy League to the Sea Cadets.
Doug?
Yeah. So Luke, I won't speak for headquarters, even though this is a headquarters call. I am pretty sure in our charter, we say that we are supporting both the Sea Cadets and the Young Marines. I think that's in our charter, but somebody smarter than me has got to correct me on that. Whether or not the Marine Corps League does, I'm sure that they do as well, Mike. But it's why don't we take a due out on that, Luke, and just make sure we officially state that they're in our charter, that we support them. I'm pretty sure we do.
Doug, this is not, I think that's correct, the Marine Corps League, but as you say, it naturally fits under us as well. And I just want to confirm that $4 million is a different from the 4 we're getting for the Sea Cadets, right?
Yeah. That's correct. So all of you guys take credit, pat yourselves on the back. The Sea Cadets were taken care of last year. They got an additional $4.3 million. So that's good. As a good friend of the Young Marines, I know that they did not get what they wanted. I helped them, just so you guys know, as a lobbyist, for free, basically. I help them and counsel them. Under their charter, they are not allowed to hire a lobbyist, so they do it in-house. And they were just unsuccessful. They asked for an additional $4.0 million and did not receive any additional funds for the Young Marines. Sea Cadets are great, and you guys all take credit. You all in your local council support the Sea Cadets. It's great. That messaging is fantastic. It's working. This is just a case that if the Young Marines don't get their $4 million next year, they could really be a hurting organization. It's a big part of their budget funding.
Jerry, did you want to add something to that?
I was going to say that it's part of the youth committees. It's under the youth committee's cognizance. We have provided, like, the Theodore Roosevelt Medal is authorized to be given to young Marines. It's an integral part of the Navy League's program, in addition to the JROTCs and the Sea Cadets. It's right there. But we do need to talk to our congressionals about funding that program. I told you, we have 3 units we sponsor. One is with a public school, one is with a local Catholic school, and the third one is in a charter school. And they all serve, well, the public school unit serves like 150 young kids. And the charter school serves another 100. And the Catholic school's just getting started, and they've got about 50. But it's a growing program, and you would be amazed to see those kids and the effect it has on them. We can't support it any more than we do. We're just enthusiastic about it.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for making that very clear. So, as Jerry pointed out, this is absolutely a part of our mission. And Jerry, I would not be surprised at just how much this transforms the lives of those kids, because that's what I fully expect from young Marines. It is a fantastic program, and I know it makes a world of difference in the lives of those young people. So, Doug, again, thanks for mentioning that, and Jerry, thanks for clearing that up. Moving on to the Coast Guard, 2 items that might not surprise you because they tend to be an issue every year, so we keep bringing it up. The first is, of course, an increase in the operations and support budget. As we say every time that we do the Hill Surge, the mission set of the Coast Guard continues expanding and expanding. When we look at the Arctic and the waterways that are opening up, the Coast Guard is really the tip of the spear up there, even more than the Navy is. When we look at counter-drug and counter-human trafficking operations, that's the Coast Guard. When we look at increasingly diplomatic efforts in the Pacific, the Coast Guard is out there training allied nations on how to police their maritime waters. When we look at the increasing urgency of dealing with illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, that's the Coast Guard. I mean, I could talk until I'm blue in the face. The Coast Guard's mission just keeps expanding and expanding, and we have to fund them to be able to actually carry out that mission set. So what we have come to the conclusion of in terms of our talks with their OLA office is that a 5% annual increase in the operations and support budget is absolutely essential to keep them on track, to keep them on target. That's something that we're pushing for this year again. And of course, we'll have those numbers for you. I know someone out there is already asking, well, what exactly would 5% look like? We'll have that for you very shortly. In fact, that's an easy one. I'll get that to you right away. And then the second item is, of course, the shoreside infrastructure. There is still a backlog. We're getting the latest numbers after the current budget that just passed last week, was signed into law by the president. What does that backlog look like at this point? It's still at least in the hundreds of millions of dollars. That's very, very serious because this dilapidated infrastructure really impacts retention and recruitment. When you have folks writing home telling their families and friends that, hey, I'm staying in this facility that's leaking, it's moldy, it's falling apart, A, that's not going to get any people back home saying, oh, I can't wait to join the Coast Guard, and B, that person that's writing that letter is probably not going to stay in the Coast Guard very long themselves. Bear in mind also that a lot of Coast Guard facilities are built in places that get hit with bad weather. That's why they are there. They're there to rescue people. They are there to rescue people, when there's hurricanes or whatever the case may be. So they're deliberately set in these places where the infrastructure is constantly being pounded by storms and other things, taking a real beating and kind of falling apart. So they always need a little bit of that extra money to take care of their shoreside infrastructure. And so that's going to be our other ask for the Coast Guard at this point. That brings us to Merchant Marine / Jones Act. And I'm going to actually, Sada, if I'm not kind of catching you off guard, if you don't mind, I'll actually hand it over to Sada Fuentes to mention very quickly about, the email that went out earlier today asking folks to submit that Voice to Congress campaign. Also kind of our ask going forward in the Hill Surge. We're not only just saying, hey, defend the Jones Act, we're kind of specifically saying, look, there are these attacks that are coming from certain organizations trying to say that the Jones Act is responsible for higher fuel prices. That's not the case. We really want to know when we sit down with these offices, we want to be able to tell them, listen, you're hearing this, but this is not accurate, and here's why. And so I'm sorry, Sada, if you don't mind, I'll hand it to you for a moment.
Sure, happy to. And thank you, Luke and the Navy League for taking action. We had a pretty short turnaround on this. As you all know from a previous Navy League meeting, there's been a bunch of disruption in ocean shipping, especially on the international flag carrier side. And so to combat that, the Senate is looking at the Ocean Shipping Reform Act, which generally doesn't affect US flag carriers. However, it's being marked up tomorrow, and we found out that Senator Mike Lee and Senator Ted Cruz, both who are kind of these sort of free trade keto guys, have introduced 6 amendments total waiving the Jones Act, and it's for everything from dredging to offshore wind. They're really kind of just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Not too long ago, routers came up with this term called disaster arbitrage, and that's kind of what seems to be happening now, where these opponents to Jones Act and to US flag will take any opportunity, any crisis, and use it as a chance to try and get their kind of Jones Act, anti-Jones Act advocacy out there. And so that's what we're seeing right now. This other bill, which is meant to target this other problem with foreign flag shippers, they're now trying to latch onto it and attack American mariners and American shipping through the Jones Act. So we know that they have these amendments that they're going to offer tomorrow. So we've got a really tight window on showing our opposition and kind of building a really strong wall in opposition. As Luke mentioned with what's going on with Red Hill and kind of a lot of these other kind of energy issues, a lot of people are kind of taking an opportunity, especially in Hawaii, to blame the Jones Act. But the cost of transportation really is only, like less than 1% of the cost that you pay at the pump. It's apparently less than the 2 to 3% it costs to pay with a credit card, that credit card swipe fee. So, it's really not a significant driver at all. And at a time when Red Hill is closing down, that facility in Hawaii is closing down, you really need to invest in a US flag fleet. So that's why we're trying to kind of pull everything together and show that that there's a national security reason for the Jones Act, because it preserves that shipyard industrial base. It preserves American mariners and their jobs, and it provides a lot of kind of visa membership as well. So we're seeing these attacks right now, which is not surprising. It kind of happens whenever these guys have an opportunity. And so the support of the Navy League is really critical. So these amendments on this Ocean Shipping Reform Act are the only place we've really seen it so far. And so that's why it's critical to kind of get the word out between now and that markup tomorrow.
Did anyone have any questions for Sada while she's joining us?
No, but Luke, I got that email through our past council president, who sent it to me asking if I had seen it. I had not. So I'm not sure who that email for the voice of on that issue went to, but you might want to check and make sure our VPs and VPLAs got it.
Thank you for mentioning that, Mike. Thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, that distro list must not have included everybody, unfortunately. Excuse me for that. What I will do is I will send it back out to the list that I have for RVPs and CVPLAs. I'll do that right after this meeting so that everyone has it. Sorry about that, Mike. I do apologize.
Question, going back to the Coast Guard, are we anticipating asking for a 5% increase or 5% over inflation for the Coast Guard's operations and support budget?
So that's a very, very good point, David. And yeah, this is going to be a recurring theme when it comes to our asks. That's going to be 5% over inflation in order to achieve that real growth. As I mentioned, we're going to see higher budgets for a lot of things that can be tied to national security. But just having that higher budget all around doesn't mean that the specific programs and the specific accounts that really need to see that real growth are going to get it. So the way that Dave just pointed out, so we say, okay, 5% growth in the operations and support budget for the Coast Guard. And they say, sure, why not? Let's do a hypothetical. Well, guess what? You haven't actually achieved the growth that you're looking for, because, we're burdened with this high level of inflation. So Dave, I'm glad that you pointed that out. Let me take this moment also to mention that all of the Hill Surge materials will be completed by next week. The PowerPoint presentations, the issue briefs and everything, and all of this level of detail will be in there. So I just want to make clear that today is not necessarily the training session. Nobody needs to walk away from this being an expert in any of these issues. We'll have all that information in those materials. But if you do have questions, please go ahead and ask them. And Dave, thanks for that question.
Luke?
Mm-hmm.
Luke, it's Lou Leotti.
Hey, Luke.
Will there, and it's kind of this is kind of a left field, out of left field question. Will there be something that we can sort of address tying in our asks to the present crisis in Ukraine? Because that's a hot topic, that's a hot button issue that makes a lot of people sit up out of the ordinary. And especially at a time when we're talking about competing interests for a scarce revenue dollar. So I'm just, is there something that you're going to make explicit, or should we just kind of add it in as we feel appropriate?
So we'll include some explicit examples or comparisons. Now, we've got a lot of folks on this call that have their own expertise on these issues. So certainly I wouldn't stop you from adding your own kind of comments to it. But for example, the nuclear triad, one of the first things we mentioned, that is critical now that we are looking at the real possibility, let's hope it doesn't come to this, but for the first time in 30 years, the real possibility of a conflict between NATO and Russia. That nuclear triad is absolutely essential. And again, the submarine aspect of that nuclear triad is certainly critical. So when we talk about Colombia, that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm talking about Russia and the situation in Europe. Jones Act, I would tie to the issues that we've seen with shipping in recent years, and also, of course, to our national security.
Sea-lift capability.
Yeah, our sea-lift capability, exactly, as Bill Stevens pointed out. So in terms of national security, that's often the best way to kind of sell any of these asks. As Bill just mentioned, as Sara pointed out, look, if we want to have those U.S. flagships and the merchant marine to man them, then the Jones Act is absolutely critical. And, we say this over and over again, but it can't be said enough. It is those flagships and the merchant marine that take our equipment, our supplies, our fuel, even our soldiers into these conflict zones overseas. So it's critical. You lose the Jones Act, you lose that backbone, you lose that ability to conduct sea lift, and that's a non-starter.
And that also backslides into the shipbuilding and auto maritime infrastructure, which Sarah would be supportive of, that supports the American merchant marine. So it's an overall concept here. It affects industry as well as sea lift. They're interlinked.
And Bill is absolutely right about that. Thanks for mentioning that. And again, we'll include that in the informational materials that we're going to submit.
The Congressman would be interested in how many shipyards and shipyard employees are in his district, and that would affect him directly. So Jones Act is directly linked to his constituents.
That's correct. Now that's absolutely correct. But again, I really, want to make sure that folks that don't necessarily have shipyards in their district are also aware just of the national security implications of the Jones Act. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more next week when we do our training. So after the Coast Guard, again, getting back to Merchant Marine and Jones Act, we just talked about the Jones Act a little bit. I'll just mention one more time again. We've gone to these offices many times and described why we care about the Jones Act, why they should defend the Jones Act. This time we will include some information specifically about the attacks that are being made against the Jones Act, so that again, we can say to them, listen, just in case you've heard this argument about the Jones Act, let me tell you why that's not accurate. We'll make sure that's
Luke, don't forget the LNG tankers. We're talking energy these days. So Jones Act affects the LNG tanker industry.
Yes, correct, definitely.
That is a hot topic. I'm sure Sarah would agree with that.
Yep, I see Sarah nodding. She does. So yeah, definitely, we'll make sure to include that. Okay, Just two more asks with the Merchant Marine. One is asking Congress to fund a new maritime transportation strategy. We've already kind of drafted, a template as far as the legislative language for this. Understand that America is lacking right now in the total number of U.S. flagships we would need to sustain ourselves during a long-term military conflict. We don't have enough Merchant Marine. We really need to look at some of the policies that could help us to rectify this situation. That's really going to require a new strategy overall. What are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to make sure that we have the fleet necessary to not only conduct domestic operations, continue moving oil and energy and things of that nature?
Gary Mendez taught on that topic. You know that, Luke.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the issue is that we still don't have that strategy. And in fact, somebody's going to have to fund the creation of that strategy. Even with the white paper that we put together, which John Kaskin did a great job.
How about the Maritime Center, Luke? This is a hot topic for the Maritime Center.
I would agree with that, but this might even go a little beyond their capabilities. We'd really like to see Congress set aside some funding and really make this a priority and actually put it into a budget that they're going to pay to have this maritime transportation strategy drafted.
Can you link any of this in with Admiral Fargo and the Maritime Center?
We certainly are going to. In fact, the last that we where we left it at with the Center for Maritime Strategy is they are going to create a report. So Scott Sund already did a great job putting together kind of a primer. Scott, thank you so much for that. That's going to make its way over to Center for Maritime Strategy. They're going to take that and expand on it, make it into a larger report. But even that is not going to be the actual, enormous piece of research that Congress really needs. So the Center for Maritime Strategy is going to come as close to that as we can. It's going to be a fantastic document when they complete it. It's going to have a lot of great advice for Congress, a lot of good guidance, but they really have to put it in the budget, quite frankly. That's just what has to happen, because this is going to cost quite a bit of money to actually have somebody go through, some organization go through all the work to actually put together a maritime transportation strategy. That is critical. And again, we'll provide all the arguments and information for that. And then the last thing is increasing the cargo preference threshold for all of the food aid that we export. Currently, it's at 50%. 50% of those exports must be sent on U.S. flagships. We want to increase that to 75%, which is where it was, I believe, about a decade ago. And then it was dropped down to about 50%. We want to get that back up to 75% because more demand, more cargo means more need for U.S. flagships. And of course, that is never, ever a bad thing. Not to mention, we're sending, U.S. agricultural products from the American people around the world to help others. Let's send them on American ships. Why not? That sounds like a good idea to me. And then two final items. One, you'll see on the agenda, co-sponsoring the Energizing American Shipbuilding Act. We've been talking about this for a while because unfortunately it just hasn't moved. But maybe now as energy has become a big thing again, oil has become a big thing again. This is something we can actually get some movement on. We're looking for actual co-sponsors this time around. Last time we educated members of Congress about it. This time I think we can actually try and go for the close on this and actually see if some of the senators will actually co-sponsor this bill. If you're not familiar with the Energizing American Shipbuilding Act, we'll go over that next week during training, but this is something many of you will recognize. The second item under miscellaneous, which is not in the agenda because again, Doug and I were just emailing recently, but the Sea Cadets, as Doug mentioned, they got the 4.3 million they were looking for last year. It does not guarantee, same thing coming out again this time around. So we want to include that as well. So that'll probably be on that slide with the Energizing American Shipbuilding Act. Those are our asks primarily. We're going to look through the president's budget, but these are things that one way or another are going to be appearing in our legislative asks. We feel pretty confident that this is what the sea services need and need the most. So we will keep you updated. Obviously, Monday, president's budget comes out. We're going to pour through that and let you know if we have any updates. But it's very likely that the asks you see here will be the asks moving forward for our Hill Surge. So I will pause there. It's a lot of information. As I mentioned, this is not the training session. That'll be next week. So you don't have to worry about being experts at this moment. But let me know if there are any questions or concerns about what we've discussed so far.
Oh, Luke, do you have a status on the number of co-sponsors for Energizing American Shipbuilding?
So I can get that for you and include that in the information. And in fact, let me see if I can pull that up right now. Give me just 1 second, Marilyn. Here it is. Okay.
Yeah, let's have a slide on LNG ship transport, Luke.
So in the House, they've got 33 co-sponsors, and it looks like a pretty healthy bipartisan group. I see a lot of Republicans and Democrats, which is always good to see. More Democrats than Republicans, but certainly enough on the right side of the aisle to make it bipartisan. And then I'll double check the Senate side. I don't think they've had nearly as much movement on the Senate side, but I'll be sure to include all that information for you, Marilyn. Let me mention very quickly in the chat, I did see William Lauper, the information you put in about JROTC. Thanks for that, and thanks for the work that you guys are doing to assist that program. And David Samuels, I hear what you're saying, but you know, in terms of why that decision was made or anything like that, I think we're going to just stay away from that and try and just get the situation fixed. I think we're past the point of asking why at this point.
Luke?
Yes.
Last year, we asked for co-sponsors for the coin for the Coast Guard Museum funding. Did that ever get reintroduced?
No, not as far as I'm aware. I will double check again right after this call, actually. But we were in touch with the president of the Coast Guard Museum Association, I believe it was. The name is similar to that, if that's not it. And they just kept telling us, we're going to introduce it soon, we're going to introduce it soon. And then it just never happened, unfortunately. So I don't know what the holdup is. It was something on their end that they maybe didn't feel comfortable discussing. I don't know. But unfortunately, Jerry, no, that did not get introduced. And that's a shame because that would be a fantastic project for us to get involved in. As we mentioned before, the Coast Guard is the only branch of the armed services that doesn't have a museum through which they can share their history with the public. That's a shame because, you know, I've said 1,000 times all the tremendous work they do. So I'll double check on that, Jerry, but the latest that I've been aware of is no, that hasn't been introduced yet, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
So Luke, Don here, on the matrix we're using for scheduling, have there been any more updates of schedulers and contact information on that since that was put out? I may have missed one that you put out if there was, but if not, I can get it from the website, what's not covered.
Oh, no, we can certainly get you whatever you need. Let me ask, did you get the first spreadsheet that we sent with the members of Congress and the schedulers on it?
I got one, but there were a good number of the schedulers missing. There was other information, a few MLAs, but some didn't have either.
Okay, yeah, let me double check on that, Don. I didn't realize that. I'll make a note of that and we'll fill in those blanks and get that information.
Marilyn, you might mention the accuracy of the contact list because you found that a number of the contacts have moved on to other offices.
Yeah, there's a fair number of them who come back with, I'm no longer there, but you should be in touch with so-and-so. And then for the ones that, the congressional offices that don't have a scheduler listed on that matrix, I just call the Washington office and ask them.
Yeah, we can do that. Luke, I know you're
happy to give us the contact person.
I know you're really busy, but I was just want to make sure I didn't miss one. We can call and find out for ourselves.
No, Don, don't feel bad. Marilyn, I thank you for being super proactive, but really we want to be able to give you the right schedulers information. So I'm sorry that some of those aren't working. Let me go back into quorum again. You know, I'm sure they have a lag of maybe a couple of weeks. Obviously, we sent out the last spreadsheet months ago.
Update on the contacts you have.
I'm sorry, say again, Bill?
I was just recommending that Marilyn provide you an updated list of the contacts as she generates them. So you can update your list.
I intend to do that.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you, but really I don't want to put that on you. Let me just double check. I'll run the spreadsheet again through Quorum, send it back out, and we'll see if the information is updated. Again, Marilyn, thank you so much for being proactive, but really I don't want to leave that on you guys because that's more work.
Oh, Luke, every day she's calling, Luke.
Well, I know she is. Okay, Marilyn is just always, working hard, but let me see if I can make things a little bit easier. So let me double check on that. And Don, we'll get back to you. I'll run that spreadsheet again and see if we can fill in those blanks.
All right, thanks.
Okay, if there are not any more questions on the asks, again, bear in mind we're doing the full training next week, so we can really dig in, go into depth on all that stuff. The next item on the agenda, and Jim Offit, I'll hand it back to you, but basically just wanted to make sure that that we're going about this as efficiently as possible. If you don't have CVPLAs in your councils, vice presidents for legislative affairs, start asking some of the council presidents about that. Because in time, we want this to be so easy that RVPs, instead of having to contact all these Navy League members and see if they can get constituents from all these different places, you can just reach out to the council vice presidents for legislative affairs and say, hey, listen, this is what we're doing, and I need you to get your council involved, and so on and so forth. Building that hierarchy is going to make everybody's life a lot easier. So don't forget that's something, to just send out that introductory email at this point. I don't expect within the next 2 weeks you've got all these CVPLAs and councils that didn't have them before, but just let the presidents know that this would make everybody's life a lot easier. Don't forget that the virtual platform tutorial is on the Quorum website. Again, that's navyleague.quorum.us. You can see at the bottom of where we have all the trainings listed. There's a training for Zoom and GoToMeeting and WebEx. Just in case you need a refresher on how to use those virtual platforms, all of that is there. With that, you could start setting up your meetings with some of your tier 1 and tier 2 legislators. Again, with those meetings starting after April 11th, because of course we'll have all of our asks together. We'll have the PowerPoint slides for you. We'll have the issue briefs. We'll have all of that by next week. And then of course we can do as much training as you need before you actually sit down with a meeting with a member of Congress. As I mentioned, if you need additional information, you want to ask some more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always happy to go over anything that you need to go over. But if you were to set a meeting now for say April 15th, you should be prepared by then. I think that would be plenty of time. So just wanted to point that out. With all that being said, Jim, I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, well, in all of your talking, you just covered items 3, 4, 5, and 6. So but it's okay. Just the emphasis on, and I think I mentioned at the beginning, getting your teams together, checking updates in Quorum. Now, those guys who got spreadsheets, Quorum could have more up-to-date information than those spreadsheets because it's populated on a periodic basis. So go into Quorum and pull down your region and look there and see if there's some more current information. So all I can say is, guys, gals, we're shortly to be off and running, and hope you enjoyed it as much as you did last year. So it's a lot of fun, really, particularly when you get a congressperson on the line and you get a chance to talk to them. You feel like you're doing something. And when you get feedback from the offices, either asking you a question or thanking you, mentioning a particular issue you talked about, you know that you're getting through to them. But in a lot of cases, I recognize that that you're dealing with people in Washington who have an in-basket full of agendas, and it's very difficult. But for those of us who have Washington tours, I don't know how you describe it, but I just got a few scratches on my forehead from trying to push that wall over the 6 years I was there about an inch. So,
it's a great time to do it too, because SAS is coming up. Marilyn says that when she mentioned inviting members of congressional staff to go to SAS, that they were really excited about it. So
good.
This is a great time to invite them to go.
Yeah, and this year, don't forget to do that, because this year, remember, both houses are in session, and if one says they're going to go, or even if you hear that their staffers are going to go, let us know, because we want to offer those staffers some special handling if they show up.
Yeah, Marilyn already has a couple of
Wait a minute.
responses along those lines.
Okay.
You will know at your end, am I right? When somebody registers, they're going to check off what category they belong to. They're with congressional
most of the
staff.
time they should. Correct.
So you will know. at
Okay,
your end.
well,
And I tell them that I'll be there to greet them in person because I will be there.
okay,
If there's some way we can connect your responses to the appropriate constituency, like the appropriate council for us to meet our congressional representatives.
So
Yeah,
I'll be looking
we know
through,
you're
yeah, I'll be
coming.
looking through, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, if we know you're coming and your congressional people are calling and you know they're coming, let's just do double check here. We'll see them, we'll connect, but you guys let us know. And then when we try to get all those congressional folks together and set up a time, we'll let you know, but we'll make sure you guys get assigned to your own people.
Good. That's important, Jim. Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say. So maybe we can sit at the same table or have some sort of cognizance, but communication.
Right.
Because Maryland is terribly effective in person.
Yeah, it is. Having those table conversations is important.
Right.
I think everybody's tired of hearing that.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Luke. Look, I've invited every military fellow that's currently serving on Capitol Hill from all the services. So there's about 60 of them. I've only gotten feedback from one of them, but just so you know. So, but I think the other thing too is when we do that congressional reach out, the STEM on Sunday is a pretty hot topic. So don't forget about that as a little teaser. In Maryland, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. So when I invite them, I go, oh, and by the way, if you have kids, come to the STEM event on Sunday. And I actually had someone from an office say, I
They were
can't.
flying in early just to be at that STEM event.
Yeah, they can't. It's hard.
That's
for
a
them to
great
get
point.
away. It's hard for them to get away and drive down there and spend 2 hours walking around during a workday, but they may show up on Sunday with their kids.
You're right, Doug. It's a weekend. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I'll mention that we've already got, I think, around 50 staffers registered. So we do have a good group. Yeah, we do have a good group that'll be attending. And probably by the end of this week, what we'll do is we'll go through, our entire list. We can populate a spreadsheet with all the staffers that have registered, and then we'll know which offices they're coming from, obviously which districts they represent, and things of that nature. And so, we can kind of send Maryland after them to make them accept all of our legislative asks.
Right.
Hey, Jim Dunn here. I think I was typing and sidetracked when you covered moving a training from the 28th to the 30th, just so I can tell the guys that already expecting to go on. What was the reason that we're moving it?
Well, because the president's budget is going to drop on Monday, and we'll have fresh information by Wednesday.
Okay, I missed that. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Again, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you.
The budget's going to be dropped.
Take care.
The details, the details will not be out until mid-April.
Yep. Good point, Doug. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.